Most of this is it not being recorded earlier?
It's not.
Okay, well, just for the record, that is,
That's the webinar chat. It's right in the middle of this.
this is the 2023. 2024 meeting of the CB3 Transportation Committee. We're going to be hearing about this Chinatown Connections project. My committee doesn't know that much about it. I don't know if probably the CB3 Parks Committee doesn't either. All the rest of you do. I'm going to outline it really quick before I turn it over to the agencies. A couple of us were there with CB3 last night at a meeting of the Chinatown Connections Working Group. That's going to be run sort of in parallel. I think I counted 19 community stakeholder organizations, including CB3, 5 agencies, 5 elected offices represented there. I keep turning this. Okay. All right. It's going to be a year or 2 of occasional presentations to CB3 and that working group in parallel to come up with what is the scope of what actually can be implemented for these parts of this Chinatown Connections project. And then there'll be construction going for a couple of years. You think that we're going to hear more accurately, but I believe that they are hoping to have construction done in 2029. So if you've been on the board a really long time, it's similar to proposals that were going through 2008 and then more recently in Artsville. We're going to hear about 3 parts. There's a gateway project, which is going to be a large work of public art that will go through one process. There's going to be 2 things that are very related. They're calling it unification of Park Road. That's connecting basically the Park Road between Chatham Square and the Brooklyn Bridge, I suppose, or City Hall Park or something, making that prettier, more accessible, etc. And then the third part is they're calling it Kinloch Square, but Kinloch Square, people should know, is part of Chatham Square. It's the little state park, I believe, that has a couple of monuments on it right now. And all those 3 things are going to have to come together. The scope is not entirely clear to me after the little presentation I saw last night. And I actually think that it is going to evolve. So, you know what we're looking at? We're not looking at anything tonight that we're going to take any position. We're learning about it and we're going to hear about it repeatedly over the next year. So agency, EDC, I'm just letting you do all of the presentation, including your introductions of people. I believe EDC is probably the lead agency. I know it's going to obviously include DOT, most likely parks, etc. Who wants to grab the mic? Gigi Lee. We'll probably remember her.
Good evening, friends. My name is Gigi Lee. I am the Vice President in EDC's Government and Community Relations team, and I am one of the project leads for Chinatown Connections. The team here is very excited to be here today to introduce you to Chinatown Connections. Our plan is to give you an overview of all. Sorry.
That's fine. Oh. So, I can keep your chair. So.
Presentation today will give you an overview of the district, an overview of the project, and also some of the next steps and how you can get involved. I want to also acknowledge that we've been joined by the Commissioner of the Department of Transportation. And, we'll start off the presentation, and then you will also pass it over to Lacey from DOT and then Maya, who's your team for EDC. So with that, if we could advance to the next. I will try to speak closer to the microphone. Is that better? Go. Okay.
But, okay,
Great, so, this is the agenda tonight. Next slide. So on February 9th, the mayor was joined by the Secretary of State, the DOT Commissioner, as well as all of the overlapping elected officials for Lower Manhattan to officially announce the Chinatown Connections Plan. And if we go to the next slide, their goals for Chinatown Connections is really rooted in how we can stimulate economic growth, bolster identity and culture, as well as looking at expanding our public realm and pedestrian space. And I think something that as we started our outreach, we can all agree on is that the current configuration of Kinloch Square with these 7 or 8 roads that lead in and around it, as well as the very long coastlines, and very confusing for bikers, pedestrians, and vehicles alike can really use improvements. So that is also one of the key factors that we will be trying to address this with. So let me give you a little bit of background and kind of how we got here. I think those of you who live in the community, and many of you who live on Park Road know, used to public vehicles, it stopped being accessible by public vehicles after 9/11. Since then, the city has made multiple efforts to improve both circulation into Park Road, in particular bicyclists and just in general in terms of circulation. What happened 2 years ago is that the governor made a $20 million investment through a program called the DRI, which stands for the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. Every year, the governor invests $10 million in a selected neighborhood, and they pick projects to invest in that stimulate the economy in that particular neighborhood. So they had picked Chinatown the year right before COVID. They did make an award that year. What they decided to do was to take the $10 million from the year before and the $10 million from the year after and combine them together. So Chinatown had $20 million investment from the state. It's a one-time investment. And there was an entire selection process and 11 projects splitting that $20 million. And projects in particular, which added up to 11.5 million, being combined to form the state portion of this investment.
is it possible you stay here where I was, because you're not being picked up for the online, not at least as many people out there as here? I think it'll fix that. So
Want me to stand or sit?
if you just stand there, everyone can see better, and I think this will help them. And I'll try.
So in addition to the 11.5 million, because that only really kickstarted a portion of the project, the city later decided that we would throw in an additional 45 million to make this close to a $56 million project. And we'll get into those projects in a little bit. Oh, sorry, next slide. Okay, so going back to some of the efforts to improve these intersections, even before this significant investment, DOT had worked on getting feedback from the community. Many of you may remember they had kiosks and DOT staff out in Kim Lau Square in person and with iPads asking how you use the space, what improvements you'd like to see. And that started an engagement process of collecting very local community feedback to help guide this larger process. And there was also in person as well as Zoom workshops that were conducted in the summer. And so you can see here sort of the neighborhood context and strategy that we are thinking about, just what the existing circulation patterns are for pedestrians and bikers, some of the ideas around proposed circulation, and then again, really rooted in renewed linkage, hence the name Chinatown Connections, on how we can really connect the different parts of Lower Manhattan into Chinatown from financial district, from the Brooklyn Bridge and the stairwell, which we'll also get into a little bit more specifics. And then for those of you who don't have to brave the crossing every day, I just want to orient you for this discussion of sort of what we're looking at when we are talking about Kim Lau Square today, right? So the long crossings are the crossings in red. We have the War Memorial from the American Legion, as well as the Lin Chu statue. And then also something that became very apparent in our outreach is that because of the inconsistent non-contiguous bike lanes, the bikers kind of cut through the square a lot, which also is not particularly safe. So that's something we've been looking at. And then also some of the constrained pedestrian space elements, the public space elements that are just because of the size of the public square. So next slide. So what do we want to do about this? So going back to the 3 projects that were awarded before, the 3 projects that you that were awarded from the state was $5 million for renovating Kim Lau Square. So the square will get larger. And that is, we envision more community events, just more open space to kind of draw visitors into the neighborhood, a place where people can rest and sort of mingle. And also kind of like as you're coming into Chinatown, coming through Park Row, that might be just kind of like the first place that you land and kind of figuring out and orienting yourselves to Chinatown. And then there's $4 million to beautify Park Row connections, which DOT will talk about in a little bit. And then $2.5 million to create a Chinatown welcome gateway. That is the part that I think we will have to do a lot more community engagement. Haya will talk about that component in a little bit. And we will also be doing a parallel engagement process for that. So I think that is the overview. And we're going to start now with DOT to talk about some of the steps that they are taking to kick off the engagement process.
And I'm gonna actually ask that we've been good so far, but let's hold comments or questions until the very end, because it will just derail it a little. Well, it will derail it if you don't. Thank you.
Thanks, Gigi. So my name's Casey Brown, DOT, and I'm one of the project leads for this project. So just kicking off about talking about the overall project. Sorry about that. So we're looking at conducting a large-scale traffic study as part of this project to really identify vehicular circulation. Pairing that with a study that will also identify the possibility of reopening Park Row and its impacts on the surrounding street grid. We want to really understand what reopening the street after 20 years of closure would do to both the intersection at Chatham Square and on the southern end of the corridor. So this map shows all the locations. We'll be doing an in-depth traffic study. We'll be conducting vehicular, bicyclist, pedestrian counts. We'll also be conducting travel time runs, so we can track travel speeds along those corridors. We'll be looking at parking and loading operations within the area to see how we can both improve and accommodate changing economic needs. We'll also be looking at very high level change in traffic patterns for Lower Manhattan. We'll be looking at origin destination data for anyone who would be potentially using Park Road doesn't go through this corridor today to see if there's any negative or positive impacts. People who are shopping in the city. And we'll be looking at this under 3 scenarios. So we'll be looking at this from just a simple, just the Kinlow Square improvements on their own. We'll then also be looking at if you just reopen Park Row on its own, and then also looking at if you combine these 2 initiatives, how those interact together to make sure we're not creating any negative impacts for the project. So it's a very comprehensive project that we'll be doing over the next 9 months. And we'll be coming back to the board and working group to share the results of those studies as they come in stages. Next slide. So at a very high level, we do have kind of an existing and proposed plan. This is a very conceptual plan to use to start the process. There's a lot of changes that may be made that come out of the traffic study, community engagement, operational challenges, also utility conflicts are a big concern for this project due to its location in Lower Manhattan. So this is the starting point where we start this project. Some of the big moves are to really increase the size of Kinlow Square by shifting it to the other side of Bowery against the west side of the square. That creates an aligned intersection with Bowery and St. James, so accommodating traffic was going north and south without having to make a lot of redundant turns. We're also looking at improving bike connections to reduce conflicts between bicyclists and pedestrians. And also really looking to shorten pedestrian crossings to make it much easier to navigate the square and really connect people to the surrounding businesses, but also onto Park Road itself to connect down into the next slide. In addition to the larger Kinlow Traffic Square project, we're also looking at beautifying Park Road. We're looking at doing this in 2 stages. The first would be an in-house DOT expense funded street improvement project, what we call a SIP. That would look to use a lot of our in-house toolkits to do a quick project this year, which would look to improve the security infrastructure to make it a more welcoming environment, look to use art as a way to encourage people to use Park Road. Right now, it doesn't feel very welcoming. It doesn't really feel like people belong there as a pedestrian. So looking to really increase wayfinding to draw people up from Lower Manhattan from the bridge into Chinatown. We'll be coordinating with NYPD and other agencies to accomplish this in-house project. And we'll be coming back to the board in May with a formal proposal and doing some in-person outreach in April to collect some feedback. So more to come on that later in the near term, and then looking for an implementation of in-house project in late summer. Next slide. I want to turn it over to Hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maya Rizvi from the New York City Development Corporation's planning team. So the third component of this project is creating a Chinatown welcome gateway. Of course, that's something that this community's talked about for a long time. And what we're thinking right now is, to create some public art that acts as a gateway that kind of celebrates Chinatown's culture and history, and kind of complements the expanded public space here. We've kind of shown an example of where that gateway could be located, but that the location and the form of public art is still up for discussion, and we'll be working closely with our community working group as well as community boards and other public engagement that will outline in a few slides to kind of understand what the best location will be, as well as kind of the form of that public art. This project will also be going through the DCLA for art process, so there will be a broader artist selection process for this piece. In terms of project roles and responsibilities, I guess you guys already have an idea that EDC is the lead agency for this project, but it is quite a large project and an interagency effort. So in no particular order, we've listed our partner agencies here. New York City Cultural Affairs will be helping us with the gateway component of this project, and particularly that artist selection process to make sure it's kind of open and responsive to the community. DOT just went over the part of the project that they're most kind of keenly involved with. And then the New York City Parks Department will also be supporting the work on the plaza, as well as the current Memorial Arch renovation that's ongoing right, or that is in procurement right now. Our executive agency, as mentioned earlier by Gigi, through the DRI is the Department of State, since they've contributed a grant award to each of these components. We'll also be bringing on board a consultant team to help us with engagement, planning, and design. And that'll be a multidisciplinary team of consultants of, that can kind of be experts on these components. And they will be retained through EPC and will lead that work as well. Next slide. Yeah, so we'll be meeting most frequently with the Chinatown Conventions Working Group. We kicked off that meeting last night. A number of people in this room were at that meeting. So we've kind of created a group of 21 community stakeholders. Kind of went through a long process with stakeholders as well as elected officials to make sure that this list was pretty representative of those who would be concerned with this project. CB3 is a member of that as well as our local elected offices. So the council member, the borough president, as well as the assembly member, state senator, and Congress member. So the engagement process will kind of underpin the planning for all three of these components. Over the next 18 months, we'll be undertaking quite an extensive engagement process. And we'll start engaging immediately on the Park Row SIP, as well as the potential Park Row Capital project that DRI has outlined, as well as the Gateway project. So those will kind of start next month. We'll be retaining an engagement consultant that helps us just kind of go full steam ahead on that. Start talking to the community working group about each of those components. And then over the summer, we'll probably kick off with a public engagement event that's kind of open to the public, likely in May or June. And we'll continue to attend these community board meetings throughout, as well as go through a selection process that'll include some community input led by DCLA, and then kind of supplement that with targeted stakeholder discussions as kind of advised by the community working group. So, things like working with SBS to make sure we do small business outreach, which will be important stakeholders along this corridor. In terms of language accessibility, we've heard repeatedly that it's very important that all materials for these meetings, as well as for each of the larger kind of public engagement events, are available in Mandarin and Cantonese at a minimum. We're going to be working with the community working group to make sure that we understand if there's any additional kind of language needs needed. So after completion of the design, which will take place over the next 18 months, our construction manager will continue to kind of communicate and engage with community and community boards as they do on any project that we undertake. Slide. So then looking kind of more closely at each component schedule here. Just to like kind of outline, we've outlined the next 3 years. As Gigi mentioned earlier, we're anticipating construction completion sometime in 2029, 5 years out from now, but the next 3 years we've kind of mapped out more closely. Along the edge of the screen, the left side of the screen, you can see kind of the 3 project components as well as kind of the full project at the bottom. So we're kind of trying to illustrate how these pieces are going to be moving kind of in parallel and then together later. So most immediately, we'll be kicking off SIP implementation over the summer, as Casey mentioned, as well as the traffic study in the spring. And that'll kind of lead us into our design consultant being procured by the fall. Which will lead to schematic design development for both Park Row as well as the Kinlow Square and the intersection design. At the same time, we're going to be working with the community working group as well as public stakeholders to develop a design brief for the Gateway project. And we hope that by the end of the summer, that's kind of finalized and in place and captures the community's feedback so that we can kind of pass that off to the artist selection process. And that kind of public design brief will be a document that our community work group has a lot of input on. It'll capture public engagement that's done additionally as well. And it'll kind of inform the artist selection process. It'll probably be appended to an RFP that goes out and kind of reflects the community's priorities and values for the project. Then both of those projects will kind of move to detailed design and development together.
in mid-2025. So that design team that's brought on board in the fall will continue to work on all three components together. Which will lead to construction in 2026 and then anticipated construction in 2029. Throughout that process, as mentioned earlier, we'll be undertaking various forms of engagement. Kind of plotted out 4 milestones here, stars that will be kind of open, larger public engagement events. And then there will likely be many more opportunities for targeted outreach, smaller stakeholder discussions, as well as, maybe a survey online. Other things as kind of guided by our community working group. So moving on to the next steps, or sorry, nearby projects, sorry about that. So our team is kind of aware that there's a lot of construction that's kind of upcoming in the next few years in this area. We want to make sure that we're kind of doing a coordinated approach, both in terms of stakeholder engagement as well as construction impact mitigation. So making sure that people don't feel fatigue over, this set of projects that we're aware of in the community. So, particularly thinking of some of the larger construction projects like Manhattan or Race Jail or 70 Mulberry reconstruction, we want to kind of make sure that our construction timelines aren't kind of overwhelming the community. Yeah, so that's just kind of our accounting of your projects, as well as just identifying a few completed processes that yeah, so just wrapping up with some next steps for our project. The first one, we're here today at CB3. We'll be presenting CB1 next week. We're working on engagement consultants, so that consultant will be brought on board by next month. We're currently kind of deep within the process of reviewing proposals and selecting a team for that. And then we're going to be kicking off a gateway subgroup. So conversations with community working group members really just focus on that gateway project in a more focused way. And we're going to be continuing to engage the NYPD on their kind of existing footprint in progress, as we've heard repeatedly from the community as well as the community working group. That's a priority, kind of something that will define the future of work. Over the summer, we expect that DOT will report back on their findings from the traffic study. We're planning to hold a first public engagement event, and then civil implementation will also commence. It will likely report back on what that looks like and what to expect there in more detail, closer to. And then we'll be releasing an RFP for planning and design team, which kind of be brought on board by the fall and carry the process in construction. That's it.
So I'm going to open it up for questions from board members, well, from committee members, and I'll try to do the parks as well. Actually, yeah, how do we do this? We're going to be admitting people who say they are parks members to the meeting, so they'll be able to speak. Meantime, transportation and I guess parks people in the room. Do you have questions of the agencies? I think we should, at least for now, keep these questions not too detailed because this is the launch of a process, okay? And so they don't know exactly what's going to be in it or whether a thing is going to happen or not. If we go to that level of detail, we could just go down a rabbit hole, and I'd rather us not do it, at least as a committee. But other questions? Any clear? Yes, Michelle. Yeah, please. If you stay here, they can hear you because it's 2 mics. Let me leave it behind you.
Thanks, guys, for talking tonight. Can you describe a little bit more about what the in or the outreach site will be?
Yeah. Just to repeat the question.
The question was, what type of in-person outreach are we doing in advance of the street group project? So we plan on doing in-person workshops with our street investor team and some of our DOT staff. In person on Park Road in April. We're still finalizing the exact dates, but and now application via the CH socials. So that will include potentially a survey, going over some of the proposals to get feedback, talk about issues, start to really formulate, finalize the in-house project as well as help formulate and create scope for our future.
Thank you. And you mentioned that you'd be working with NYPD around the security situation, but sorry, like the checkpoints, but are NYPD and SDNY two of the stakeholders that will be part of this, because it seems like they're important ones. My understanding is that NYPD closed Park Road for reasons, private cars. Thank you.
Yes, so as part of this project, one of the goals of this project is to improve pedestrian experience, and pedestrian experience is hindered by the parking on the sidewalk. So we are partnering with our other agencies and to rationalize what's happening on Park Road, to really achieve the goals of the project, which is to beautify Park Road and make it inviting for pedestrians. So that is one of the main goals.
Oh, I mean, like the security. For like the long term.
For the long term, for more like a reopening.
Yeah.
So that is more, would follow the track study that we're doing. So we will continue to have conversations about Park Road once we have results of the traffic study. Real conversation, stakeholders, residents, and from the community about the future of it.
Maybe somebody check if anyone's complaining about tech, but if you do it here, they won't need to repeat the question. Right here, this mic and that mic, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the update, from everybody. Okay, so I have a couple of, questions, and once for the nearby projects, if you could also include, we talked about it, I know, you may not have had a chance to update. Pace University is doing renovation, the district attorney's office is doing a renovation. They had blatantly, not blatantly, clearly told us that the staging area is gonna be on Park Row. And then the federal detention center, I'm assuming at some point will also get a renovation, so there's actually a lot of things happening right now. The pitch point, I think you all know, is a huge issue, so I'm glad I know you all are working to address that. So there's just two more things. One is my question related for the traffic study. How or can you include, for example, the Brooklyn Bridge ramp that used to be open, but it was closed after 9/11. And if that will ever be reopened, and or how did you include that in your traffic study? And then just my second is really to please just confirm for the public here in terms of the bus routes through Park Row, and then now with any renovation with Kim Lau, that the bus routes would continue, because our residents really depend on that route, and it's really important for them to know and be confident that it will remain as is. Thank you.
Yes, we definitely add those to our project management context. Those are good points. For the Brooklyn Bridge ramp, we can continue to have conversations with both MIPD and our operations unit to discuss that. It's not clear this time where the city falls on that subject. And then in regards to bus routes, as part of the Kim Lau Square project, we don't envision any changes to bus routes. All the bus routes would be maintained, all the stops would be maintained. Stops may shift to one side of the intersection or so, just depending on how the design comes out, but we don't anticipate any changes to bus route operations. There may, of course, be impacts during construction, and that will coordinate with MTA on where temporary bus stops go during it.
Okay, I am not seeing hands from the online board members. So I'm gonna open it up to, with nobody else in the, other board members in here in a second. Nobody else? No more? Are you?
Sorry. Just so we all understand, I think that the funding slide was maybe a little confusing. How much city money is committed to each one of the 3 projects? / do you know? Thanks.
So the
we're not thinking about it as a, separate, a separate project sort of situation. But I will say, if we look at the funding slide, the state committed very concrete amounts. The city's additional 44.3 is really focused primarily on the Kinlow Square redesign. And that is DOT capital money, so it is really to cover the cost of that component.
Okay, so I'm gonna let Trevor and go, and then Trevor, you wanna, you stand here, I have a saying. I don't think if they stand up there that they get picked up on the. That's the mic. I know. So for the room, is that better, Mike? Okay, go ahead.
So my question is more general. I know that you're, you know,
What if we turn that around? So people-
Well, this is the mic. This other mic is better for the room. This is better for the room, but this is the mic for the online. So I don't know how to turn this off, but tell me it.
that were. So my question goes to the answer. So right now. Those drawing that you're shrinking us. You're anticipating less traffic, because everything. I don't say. I'm just curious as to what your scope is and what you're going to study. You're studying today's traffic, or are you anticipating less traffic?
Great question. At this time, we are planning on studying existing conditions to start. So we'll be collecting traffic data for the next couple of months. We then will have an opportunity to observe any impacts on congestion pricing to make any necessary updates. But we're starting from like a worst case scenario that the traffic levels change. And we can continue to adapt the design and the study in response to what we see from congestion pricing, because there's still a lot of questions. We don't want to like wait till right after congestion pricing goes in for data, because there might be a immediate fall off in traffic surgeons. It's a big change in the city, and we don't want to do something too soon before we know the full impacts. But we are able to accommodate congestion pricing in the future for the design. There will be in regards to the number of lanes. There are some slight tweaks to the lane assignments, but we do foresee that the simplification of operation. So instead of having to make 2 turns, you now just go through. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
We'll be able to actually improve operation because it'll be more straight, like more streamlined. So we actually do feel like simplifying operations will improve traffic, and you won't need as many lanes. Because there's not many people turning or waiting for pedestrians to cross, creates more standard perception. But the traffic study will be confirming all of that, so there may be changes from what's shown to accommodate.
David, just a quick follow-up.
Okay.
Your study.
Yeah, so the question was that the traffic study included opening Park Row or not reopening. We are including opening Park Row, so we'll be studying opening Park Row, the Kinlow Square improvements as shown in the presentation, and a combination of both of those.
Yeah, if you're studying,
Yeah, if you would, that way.
if you're studying opening Park Row, are you also studying potential impacts if there is traffic there that would be caused on the bus routes that go through Park Row or other vehicles that currently use it?
Yeah, great question. The traffic study will be looking at that, and that's part of the conversation to come back to the community to determine the fate of Park Row. We really want it to be an open process, so we want to study what happened and then come to the community to reach consensus over what to do with it. Because we do know the community split. That was from some of our on-site outreach. Some people don't want to open, some people want to open. So we just want to know all the impacts to all the open users before we make a decision, and we have community consensus.
Yeah. All right, I have a question for the DLT. On the sidewalk along Park Row, is there a plan to expand the sidewalks? Or are you using existing sidewalk space? Also, on the west side of Park Road, the sidewalk itself is a little in disrepair. Are there plans to fix that? And one more question is the expansion of farming along Chatham Square. Is that gonna be a raised curb expansion or is that gonna be a painted border?
Good questions. For the in-house project, we are looking to increase pedestrian space on the southeast side of Park Road. The pinch point is something that came up. It's very important to the community as an initiative, so we are focusing a lot of efforts on mitigating that issue, and we'll have more information back to the board in May with the design for that. The west side of Park Road is not currently included in the in-house project for repair, but we could include it in future capital project. The current capital project has $4 million. That's a rather small amount that we seek state for a large capital reconstruction, so we would have to seek additional money to do a larger reconstruction. Yes, the extension of Chatham Square. So what we're looking at for Chatham Square, for Kinloch Square, is full capital reconstruction. So this would be a full construction, raised sidewalks, plantings, full like capital project. So no paint, no temporary materials. This would be a permanent plaza in final.
Okay, okay, and then I'm gonna, then we're trying to figure out how to do that online. Susan. You get a live ones, I'm gonna get one of these computers, speak into the room. Then repeat the question, but this is Susan, she's here.
Okay, thank you. Still have my Park Road T-shirt from 2002. At the time that Park Road was closed, we were told it was completely about Homeland Security. So are all the Homeland Security issues completely gone?
That's a great question. I think that's something we'll have to continue our conversation with as part of this process with our partners and the state level. So I don't think it's necessarily determined at this time. There was acceptance from NYPD to potentially reopen Park Road. So there was some give and take to that. As part of the target traffic study, we will be having all those conversations to really determine is Park Road safe to reopen, both from an operational standpoint and a security standpoint. How long is it open? How is it open? All those questions will come in this process.
Okay, now I'm gonna unmute my box and ask Dan to say hello and make sure we don't spark the feedback. Where's the button? All right. Dan, say something.
Hello, can people hear me?
That's working. So I'm gonna ask them to repeat it. Well, I'm afraid to stick the mic too close to that. Say hello again.
Okay, hello. My question is just, I keep hearing open Park Road. Does that mean open to private vehicles? Is that what we're discussing? Because that would definitely have an impact on the pedestrian experience as well as the mass transit and bicycles. So is that when you say open, you're talking mostly about private vehicles, is that correct?
Yeah, I'll repeat the question for a minute here. So the question was, when we talk about reopening Park Road, then focus on private vehicles, or is it also the impacts on pedestrians and mass transit users? So as I said earlier, that's one question that came up with that. So we are looking at opening Park Road. That's the main focus of the traffic study. But we will be looking at what knock-on effects are. Customers, pedestrians, cyclists, and be able to come and present those findings to the community to have an actual conversation about what reopening does mean. Maybe it is maintaining just pedestrian access, cyclist access, maybe it is opening it to. That's what the purpose of this process.
Are there other committee members, board members who are wanting to ask questions? Move on to board member. Diane Lake is, okay, I'm gonna get Diane from online.
Hi, can you hear me?
You'll have a chance in a minute. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask about your plans for community engagement. I see that you're planning to hire an engagement consultant and start community engagement as soon as this summer. And my question is, are you relying on the consultant to guide you through the community engagement process? Have you talked to other agencies who have done big changes for the community, since we have a lot of those going on right now? And how, will your plans for community engagement and your approach to that come back to the board, the community, for more discussion?
So that's a great question. To answer the first part of your question on whether they'll be leading, kind of like advising on engagement, I think specifically on this project, we're lucky enough that we have people like Gigi who are very familiar with the community and have a lot of experience working with a lot of the stakeholders here. So I think that it'll kind of be a give and take of, how we'll be able to advise them on some things that they might not have experience with. It does depend on who that consultant team is, and in the RFP, we've definitely emphasized that we're looking for someone who understands the community and has the cultural background to kind of reflect the community a bit better. So we're optimistic that we'll find someone who also understands the community. In terms of working with other agencies, I mean, we work very closely with our kind of like our interagency team, which is DOT and Parks and DCLA, who all have experience working on projects locally. And we're trying to kind of understand what their experiences are in the team or in the community, and sort of start learning from those as well as we're kicking it off.
I would just add, in addition to what Aya said, in our engagement slide, we talked about the sort of multifaceted engagement that we're doing. So in addition to coming to community boards with regular updates, as well as having the community working group, we will also be doing smaller focused engagement. For example, we anticipate a group of conversations just with small business owners, right? DOT has engaged conversations with local groups that do art and artist work to have discussions about what the SIP art components will be. So there will be both very high level as well as very detailed engagement. I would add that this public realm project is a very high priority for the city. It is being watched over and managed directly from a very senior level staffer at the Deputy Mayor of Operations office. So you will see us often, and you will have a lot of access to the project team as well as the consultants, particularly in this first sort of 16 to 18 month engagement process.
Thank you. Good. So drop your hands. So I'm going to go to people in the room. We do have similar questions still, and I'll try to get yours first online. Maybe are you going to be able to tell me when it looks like you got hands from other people? Okay, so just interrupt between me. So best way to do this, I think, is just let you ask it from the seat, and I'm going to ask whoever you're interrogating to just repeat enough of the question so that people online know the context. So I'm just going to scan the room from one side to the other.
Question about the city process, which is the status, the label, was that? Concrete metal barrier.
Good question. As far as SIP, do we envision being a lot of barriers along the road? That is a main component of the project, is working with my leader to kind of complete state barrier cleanup. You have bollards, might be neat granite blocks, and a lot of like extra stuff out there. So we do look at trying to look at really what's necessary, how can it be arranged in a way to be inviting and to eliminate whatever's not necessary. Because there seems to be a lot of story.
Go ahead.
With the design brief, you clarify, are there 3 design briefs? Is there one for Kidlap Square, one for the Gateway, one for Park Row? What are you looking for? If one project is only $4 million for the design of the road, which seems to be likely utopian. For anything to change. How is this going to work out? And is there one request for proposal, or is there one team that you need to work for all the projects, or will it be different?
Okay, I'll try to remember each piece of that question. The question was about, what the content of the design brief is, as well as if there's multiple RFPs. And was there anything else that I was down? Okay. So the design brief will focus on the Arch project or the Gateway project itself. So that'll be the focus of that. To answer your question about what will inform Park Row, we're hoping that the engagement consultant will also put together a set of recommendations out of the engagement that they undertake over this. So the engagement that will start next month and, progress over the summer until the fall. We're hoping that they can kind of create a set of recommendations for capital improvements on Park Row.
Will you be using the really true plans that were done in 2009? Given that was done for Park Row, is that going to enter into this at all? Work.
The question was, are we gonna be looking at the 2009 plans? That's definitely an inspiration for this project. So the Kinlaw Square, Cheltenham Square proposal that's been shown. Is somewhat based off of that. It's a bit updated to more modern standards. Later thinking that that plan is relatively old from what we've been doing at the city. We've progressed a lot as a city of what we're doing. In regards to Park Row, we are also using that as a starting point. And really, a lot of the conversations for Park Row is figuring out, like, do we phase it? Do we start somewhere small? Do we wait to do an entire project? All while operating kind of under the goals of the 2009 plan and a lot of the thinking that went into that plan. Because there was a lot of community process to that.
There was a second part.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Let's not ask two huge questions if we might. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, just to answer the piece on the RFPs. Our plans right now are to release 2 RFPs. The first one for an engagement consultant that'll start up right away in May. And then a second one for a design team in the fall. We decided to kind of split it up like that just because we knew that engagement should begin as soon as the announcement kind of went out. We didn't want people to really feel like a bunch of funding was announced and that nothing's been happening with it. So we wanted to get a head start on that engagement since we know it'll take quite a while and be a long, extensive, inclusive process. And then the design team will come on board to follow. We'll have, an engagement consultant as well, who will carry on that engagement. So it'll continue through the design process.
Just for the gate.
For all 3 components, both projects. Yeah.
Okay, I am going to, I'm gonna let us have 15 more minutes and then we'll just take a set on whether we want to do more. So for 15 minutes, I'm gonna do this, but I'm not gonna just do from the middle of the room. I'm gonna go left and right now. I'm gonna name 2 people. So you'll be number 1 and you'll be number 2.
Transform our space. We know that it's community, especially those small businesses. Only $4 million is not enough to do the truly transformative work that we need. So we will renew our call to our federal state partners to put in more dollars. So that we can. 2 additional comments. Just one of the economic impact. There are over 19,000 pedestrians on the bridge every day. $1 billion of economic to Chinatown and area. Accessing those pedestrians. With respect to the short-term SIP, I just want to focus. 1, please do better line in signage so that Bridge. Point in this room. NYPD cars. Sidewalk. It needs to stop today. They have operational challenges. We have operational. Just deal with it.
Okay.
My name is Irving Lee. I'm alongside Elizabeth Powerstown. I covered it well at But that is a major variable. It's creating the crisis. You see, I'm concerned going into St. James, it's quite dangerous, even if you have a pedestrian walkway. But I believe that the cultural part is fundamentally false. That essentially 9/11 was the basis for its closure, and the police department utilizing Closure Park Road is fundamentally wrong. It's really undermining the business and economy of Chinatown. And we should challenge the notion that national security is necessary for its closure, because the whole premise behind it is fundamentally false. And I just stop from here, but I would just, if you have any questions about that, it's clear that we need to challenge that premise. And it's clear now there's no real justification for it. Thank you.
Okay, I also realize that it's just a comment, it's not gonna be heard online unless you're standing very close to this Susan Hickey. So up to you who you want to hear you. I'm gonna take the gentleman in the blue shirt, then I'll take you, hi.
Oh, I'm Albert Hall, I'm a longtime resident of Chinatown, and been here for a while, so I do remember when we actually had a 400 car parking permit that was servicing Chinatown. And that was taken away from us before 9/11. And we had no community input in that. Is there any plan? I know it may be outside the scope of this project, but it should be something that we need to address. I mean, I'm not saying build another 400 car parking garage somewhere else, but you know, we're hurting, and that's not helping.
Concerned about the proposal to build a gigantic triangle in front of Park Road. And this is going to be triple the size of the current space. Now, we don't need traffic studies to let us know that there's so much congestion at rush hour and not even on Sundays on West Street. West Street used to be a secondary roadway when Park Road was open, and now it is a very clogged artery. When we narrow the roads in the proposed plans, both at Chatham Square and on Park Road, that's going to be a problem. People who live around Chatham Square. So we don't want to make a problem. We need to fix the problem, and we have to be very careful about how we proceed. A real big concern is they're suggesting that we eliminate one lane, so there's only one lane on in each direction on Park Road. Now, if there's a bus coming up and down the street, you have all the cars piling on behind it. Plus, in front of the side of our building, we have lost after 9/11 our ability to park moving trucks, cars that pick people up, all gone. The same Chatham Green. So we need to look carefully to make sure that we're not creating new problems when we're proposing new solutions. Thank you.
So, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. It's a great presentation. But my name is John Ost. I live in Southeast Towers, where I serve on the board of directors. And just as a point of information, after 2001, Southbridge combined with Chatham Green and Chatham Towers, and we filed a lawsuit against the police department because before then it was closed completely. It is now open only to buses, and it's supposedly open based on a lawsuit to ambulances and fire trucks. So if you're in Chatham Green or you're in Chatham Towers, the ambulances and fire trucks are not using it because they lose too much time trying to get through the checkpoint to save you. And activity has increased at the downtown hospital, where they're doing a lot more now. It's a lot more traffic, so ambulances. So I would hope that the DOT would look into that, making sure that there's no restriction on ambulances and fire department trucks.
Go ahead and back. Hey, yeah.
Thanks. I'll keep this quick. Please do not. Out. Pedestrians, like they said, no. So please.
Okay, I'll go ahead and take you and then in the back, one and then two.
Yeah, I've got a question. Can you talk a little more about the environmental assessment that's coming out? It said, what are you looking at? Why are you doing the environmental assessment?
In regards to the animal project, we're not doing full processing, we're using our temporary materials and we're really improving what's already there. We're not making drastic changes part of our from an operations standpoint, that would trigger any need for an environmental assessment. And then for the larger traffic study, while not a full environmental assessment, it is very rigorous traffic study as required by city law to meet the goals of the capital project and ensure limited to no impacts on operations for the Chatham Square project.
There was one through the environmental assessment, mentioned, not in the same way, the timeline.
Oh, that's included in the traffic study, so it's not an EIS, it's a formal traffic study. That DOT is required to do for capital projects that change operations, but it's not full.
That's part of the larger.
Yes, it's part of the larger.
Okay, would like to speak there on the back, yeah, you.
But now, probably anyone sits there, is going to waste. So, a continuous update of the park, either make it with the function, contract. People regularly, not to one to the knowledge, based on people who use it. I don't know. It's nice to know who told me that. No one sure. Serious trying to correct problem. The waste. Like, it's a small part. That would take a lot of effort to treat the problem.
Thank you. So we don't have all of our representatives here with us today, but I will make sure to share your concern.
Okay, so I'm gonna head over to this side, you do number one, and then I'm gonna take number two. But one.
Lanes, the transport section. But one, illegal anywhere.
The question was, with the change in travel lanes at Kinloch Square or Chatham Square, do you expect traffic to get worse or better? At this point, we don't fully know. Got like a very high level. Data, just to kind of gut check and make sure that we it's not going to get terribly or change any drastically. But that's what the traffic study will evaluate. So we'll be conducting a rigorous traffic study to ensure safe operations for vehicles, safe operations for transit pedestrians, cyclists. And we'll be sharing all those results as we go. Study with our community stakeholders as part of this project. So we will be adapting the design to match what comes out of it.
All right. So I'm gonna go with, you and then you. Good, 1 and 2.
Hi, my name is Father Ahmad, the pastor of Conservation Church. So, we are in charge of St. James School. Space. Drawing, I saw that Bowery runs into St. James place that. It's a Bowery, 2 lanes on each side, the St. James is the only 1 lane. And I noticed the traffic study in the summer, I don't have summer school essentially there. But please take also into consideration all the children and parents who are loading and unloading their children at school on the corner of St. James Place. James.
You want to respond?
Yeah, okay. So the question was about lane restrictions on Bowery and St. James, and then also consideration for schools. So we do, we will be accommodating turns from Bowery onto other streets, so we just have 1 through lane into St. James as currently shown, to be confirmed during the traffic study. And the traffic study will be conducted and the counts will be collected during our prudent traffic study season, that will be following, which is usually conducted in session. So we'll be picking dates for that session to make sure we're adequately studying.
Yeah, I just have a question about. That's that locus not on the list. There is why.
So the working group was really, a combination of stakeholders that reported out to sort of a larger stakeholder group. So for example, Chamber of Commerce, community boards, just kind of larger representation. There's certainly a cultural organization on there. I think Chinatown is represented. The list is not exclusive in terms of like, we consult with MoCA, we have a good working relationship with MoCA, and certainly when we talk about art and public art, like we will be reaching out to additional stakeholders, including MoCA.
Can I see how many hands we have to go? We really want to see. And I see 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna take those 4 now. I've demonstrated no ability to remember who had their hand up. So could you raise your hand again so I can try to memorize? Okay, thank you. And then we'll see. So I'm gonna start in the very back. 1.
Thank you so much. Very good. Has there been policy parking at all? And second, on the testimony that's on the flyer.
Good questions, 2 questions. First one was regards to Park Row and any conversations that might be about reinstituting parking. To my knowledge, none of those conversations have happened, but they could be a part of this process as we go through the larger community outreach process and the traffic study. So I think that's kind of just the only answer we have this time for that question. In regards to funding, I think really there's not an immediate need now. I think we really need to work through implementing the SIP, working with the community to develop a scope, to really know what we're asking for. We don't want to kind of make an ask for money and then either not ask for enough and go ask again, or ask for too much. Sometimes a bunch of good things. So we just want to really have a clear scope and cost estimate before we go seek additional funding from federal and state locals. Okay.
So I think your question was in relation to the flyer. So Nick, who's walking towards you right now, is one of the founding members of the Alliance, and it is an initiative that they're undertaking, which is separate and apart from the city's projects, but they are a member on the working group. So feel free to speak to Nick, or Nancy's on as well. And they represent Chatham Green and Chatham Square, Chatham Green and Chatham Towers on the working group.
Okay, in half.
Nothing. Hi. New York City is comprised of multiple Chinatowns. Why would you I'm starting to say how China. That's stagnant for the last 15 years. And there's a lot of different reasons, but one of the most main reasons is also not this. Okay, just want to make that. We all involved in things that. This is of China. I just want to ask a question on the Purpose Arch and Kinloss explanation. Two is the plaza. Next, you know, DOT made the presentation by someone who's a couple of different offices, was a circle, it's like so bad.
So let me address the memorial arch, and I'll give it over to Casey. So the American Legion is represented in the working group. The arch currently is absorbing substantial damage. I think many of you see that there are braces on it. It is monitored monthly and the cracks are getting significantly worse. So Parks is engaging in a separate process. There has been money set aside to repair the memorial arch. And there's an RFP currently out to find someone to do that work. So the repair work is proceeding as planned. The memorial arch is landmarked. So in order to move it, we would have to make an extremely substantial and compelling case. The American Legion has expressed a strong desire to keep it where it is. And I should also add that it's not just the arch, the benches are also part of the landmarking. So if at all possible, the arch will stay where it is. That being said, because the square will be getting larger and there will possibly be discussions of adding another piece of public art within that space, there will be larger conversations around the statue that is there as well. The Fujianese community were the ones that commissioned that statue. They are also represented on the working group. They have expressed a willingness to move the statue if it helps this overall process. And so that is my very long way of saying that all of this is fluid and will be part of the conversation. And then the last part I will add is any public art that is on city land must also go through a public design commission process. So it is not a decision that EDC or DOT can make on their own. There's a completely independent, separate group of commissioners that really are the experts on public art in public spaces. And if we were to have to go through that process, they also have public hearings where the public is able to give input in support or against.
By far. Section. Only option.
So the question was, is the design of the plaza, just extend from the line out to the arch? At this time, that's the proposal moving forward study. It really met the most goals that we came up with, and met the goals of what we heard from the community outreach. So it expands the public space. That was something that was outlined. It simplifies traffic operations. It's a big community concern, a big DOT concern. Very concerned about traffic operation and intersections function. And then also really just simplifies the general intersection as a whole. So that's why we're moving forward with this proposal. That's not to say that there might not be some changes to it as we go through the design process. But from a high level, that's the proposal that's moving forward.
Seems like okay. It constricts traffic quite a bit. Go ahead.
I do want to thank the members of the CB3 board. I know it's your common time and we need to appreciate like shown by all people here. My question is actually directed at the use of funds. I'm hearing from the board that there's limited funds, obviously, to do all the different things that we want to do for this area of, for the sidewalk repairs for Nancy's project, it does have some. It's $4 million. It's not enough money. Has there been any thought given to taking the $2.6 million for the Gateway project to help fund the expansion of the pedestrian walkway? Because I don't know, you want $6 million for a Gateway arch? Who's with it? And say $2.6 million. And by the way, in this same discussion that we're having, you know, talking about how the American Legion's arch is falling down, so not being affected. So the use of this money to create yet another Gateway arch that there will be no funding to do maintenance on makes no sense to me. So has there been any thought given to using that $2.6 million in a smart way?
So first, to be clear, the community board has absolutely no influence on this. We're saying the board, there you go, we don't know to the agencies.
Thank you, David. So the distribution of the state funds are a decision that was made by the Department of State and the governor. So those, and there was a year-long engagement process where many projects were considered, many people applied. And at the end, 11 projects were chosen, 3 of which you see, you know, here today. I will say part of the reason the city stepped in and felt like it was necessary to add over $40 million to it was because of exactly what you just said, which is that while the 3 million, 4 million, 2.5 million was a great start, it was clearly not enough. And we felt like in many ways, it overpromised what it could deliver. The Gateway project, the sponsors of the project and those who supported it made a commitment to conduct a private fundraising effort if needed. And that is part of the process moving forward. If after the design brief and bringing on the artist, there is a decision to pursue something that would exceed the cost of 2.5 million, there is a commitment to private fundraising.
I just want to salute you for working with so many stakeholders. It's not easy. My Christmas very simple is any debt as to when the money as you know, you stick around long enough.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's clearly you've been around city projects a long time. So yes, the state, look, this is a very aggressive timeline. The 5 years is extremely aggressive. You know, we have to say that over and over again, especially for a project that has this many stakeholders and this many agencies trying to work together. The state has expressed, the state and city leadership has expressed a preference for us to start drawing down the capital money within 2 years and then to finish within 5. And so that is everyone's goal here, is to really like meet those milestones and benchmarks. We work very closely with the state on this, and so my understanding is that it is not a situation where at a certain date there is a cutoff and then the money gets moved somewhere else. We have to show substantial progress is what is written in the contract, and so that is what we aim for.
But when you say 2 years, that's money a year.
That is correct. And so we are thinking that with a 16 to 18 month engagement and with the planner on, and being able to conclude that engagement process, that will be considered substantial progress.
Okay, one last thing I want to mention. I think that the memorial on Kinlow Square is on a little bitty chunk of state park. I think part of the decision. That was my understanding 15 years ago. It's city parkland. Okay.
Just the action.
Great. Okay, so I think that'll wrap up the presentation tonight. As for when this comes back to committee board. Well, I don't know when that is. The meetings of the working group are gonna happen at any time, so I just heard May. In May, this will probably come back to the committee board. A lot of what people are talking about tonight is like, I want this piece or I don't want that piece. Like, that's gonna be hammered out over the next, I'm just gonna spitball 6 months. You know, and then at some point between 6 and 10 months from now, or there's gonna be things like conceptual designs coming through. And then final designs, and you know, then it'll get work. So this is quite early for when community boards usually see this kind of thing, is what I'm trying to say. You usually don't see it until it's a conceptual design. All right.
I just want to add that our next public presentation will be at Community Boards One's Executive Committee next Thursday evening. It will be a very, very similar presentation. We might tweak it a little bit to focus on the Park Row impacts on the Community Board One side, but it is the next public opportunity for you to comment.
The presentation will be online as well as the recording. So both recordings and whatever it was. PowerPoint and it's just on level. So we'll be taking bring that pause. Or those people online. The next item is a bus. So. I think here. Let's see. Clearly, you guys say for us, obviously, please stay, but if you're gonna stay, you're gonna sit and be quiet. If you're not gonna stay, you know. So you can work up to the next students. Progress insurance. I'm asking very about results. Tell there's questions. Okay. And DOT officials start walking next. It's going to be
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
That now.
I'm going to ask you to not speak anymore because we're going to go to the next agenda.
We'll email this to you.
Thanks. Okay, it's the bus applicant here. Forget their name, so we have the agenda. Otherwise, we can.
Good night. It's not a
Good night.
Sorry, should have gone. Never mind. Yeah, what is it? Ace travel. Is ace travel in the. Is ace travel online?
Yeah.
Yes. They were in the room. Yeah. Okay, you're on the water. Okay. Okay. Well, ace travel is. That's a good question.
I think you should wait out, right?
Yeah, I really need to. Please, that was stay very quiet for having a meeting. It's online, so, okay, Ace Traveling, 59 Canal Street, that is. A block that has a lot of us on that block and on the surrounding blocks, it's between. All bankers, so, things, so, like it's between Orchard and, Pike, there are other bus stops on Pike, there are other on Canal, and there are some around the corner, I know they're not here, but I'm still. They're everywhere. We have had numerous applications at this spot over the past 15 years, 20 years. 10 years. And I went through them all last night. All of those buses, up East Broadway, turn onto Essex briefly, and then turn onto Canal. Through to where all of those bus stops are, but whether they're on Canal, whether they're on around the corner on Pike. There's a lot of bus traffic moving through there. It's basically a pinch point. We got to make very tight right turns, left turns, 2 in a row. Get off East Broadway onto Essex Express Square, and then onto Canal. And we have been alternating between denying these things and approving them. And they are not sure what, but that's what we do. It's not, in my opinion, a great location to have any more buses. And they are not here tonight. So can I just ask for your opinions from people? I see it.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, if these people are here, I think we can talk about this bus stop, but I don't see a reason since they didn't stay.
Also, right, Susan.
Well, first of all, I just asked Hader. I just anticipate that we could extend that line. It's a turnaround time that's in the regulations, but I asked if we could extend it since it's not here. And I just want to make sure that everyone understands who doesn't know the history of this. If we just deny it, and I don't know what people are. You just not do it. There's no question about it. We never ever. One time we did try to deny stuff in their suit, and so this was there regardless of. But what?
Other times, we'll not see.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm going to gather that because the elected officials.
Point is that.
Yes.
Just because they say no, it doesn't mean that.
And let me just finish. As far as the community board 3 does, there was tremendous community opposition, and the elected officials, I've never seen people just know. And that's why it was strictly political. Or say simulations.
I can give you 2 other.
Can I know understand? So it's the process is. Unfortunate. And I, just accept responsibility for having pushed forward for school years. Now we have them. And it doesn't work because, as Susan said, don't have a lot of influence over getting a denial because the law is written very narrow. It's about set that for that's it. So DMT, example, Susan is talking about our SIPs. What they largely say is common sense, do things that we want to. Think DOT will not have any problem, but whether we have to negotiate than unusual, it's not like this. It's standard SIPs. There's two of them which are sort of optional. One's not anymore because, okay, there's one that's optional, and that is whether they're gonna have a storm bunker. What we have done in the past is we would have a whereas clause that express say that they don't have what refers to do. It will improve anything and ask DOT to attach the SIPs to the license. In other cases, we have said it's suggested either there's too many in that spot, or there's a traffic problem, in both situations, private signal. And I think it's incorrect that that's the reasoning that's outside of the purview of the law. I'm just gonna read the two therefore results that I put together. I think we should just do this. If we were to do it. Therefore, seeking the agreement had checks to issue another permit at the particular location like this, the DOT should not issue a permit to operate their bus service, etc. And in further resolve, if DOT does issue a race travel lane to operate, etc. So if you're gonna have requests of increasing list of stipulations agreed with the applicant, CV3 will be attached to the DOT permit. I'll let you speak, Susan, because I'm pretty much know what you're gonna say. That's the one of paragraphs.
No.
Okay, well, that is a no, but if you do 10.6. The fact is, I don't think DOT cares. We do it that way. I would like us to be able to register that it is a problem, they should stop. Maybe that's what I would first CSR do it. And then 6 anyway, because it's not like, that's not a worst case situation. You have to say yes to get 6 attack. I don't believe that DOT will operate that way. If they do, I'll shop. Actually, I'm not people because. Yeah.
I was gonna say, we have had six,
We do have some people online.
we have had success, both before and after voting. And having this move somebody because we do the last time, it's like, you know, which was right. And solutions going there. There's something like the nursery school, something like that, that DOT is not aware of. They will take those kinds of things into consideration.
David, can I ask both you and Susan? I thought probably about 3 years ago, but the last occasion, and I thought we had rejected some. Were those then granted? They were.
So like I said, the one that was talking about sewer card, that was moved someplace else. This wasn't, that was also objection. And the only other one I'm aware of is ever done, it was reversed almost. So yeah, they're there. Well, you can go on.
I would argue that that should not stop us from rejecting, on the grounds of congestion, pollution, light on the neighborhood, and just the traffic dangers, from 55-foot buses coming down East Broadway, Canal Street, etc. This is not the neighborhood for bus for interstate bus stops.
I second that. That's a motion.
It was.
Okay,
I'm wondering if this company has another bus stop in the nearby area, because it seems like there's a lot of bus stops. If the company can operate at another bus stop that already exists, that would change. Yeah, I don't.
yeah, well, they would have to get permission to add more buses. Each of these permits restricted to a certain number of buses at certain times, yeah. Because obviously.
This one is right there. There's no enforcement of stipulations. I really believe.
Let's talk about language, this different brand, this can always be. Think about the website. Well. The enforcement, it's not like these are SIPs that get enforced by some regulatory agency. They are our way to go to DOT and say, DOT, they are not, and we would have to prepare complaints for the community, but then we would be able to say, DOT, they're not complying with these SIPs, DOT will talk to them. That has happened, right?
DOT is not
But if I know, well, and then what, 3 years later, they haven't reformed it, well, I didn't work it.
But they just do it anyway.
Well, I understand it's, but I do think we can, I mean, keep this in mind, I think we can do that two-part resolve.
I think you're already there with the. No, but the tap systems, just the part. I mean, I've been looking at this issue for a decade, and stipulations are nice, but it's not. And the last time it wasn't, we had buses towed, you got sick. So it's not. So I agree with the, no, and then adding stipulations system or something, but just to know that those stipulations, unless there's a really, really strong community member, spend all the time, they're just.
Okay? What?
Okay, the DOT is going to get sued. So what? Thankfully, they have court counsel and they have attorneys and they have, key pockets. It's time that this community stands up and puts their foot down. And if we determine that we can no longer be used as an interstate bus depot, which I think many of us would agree should stop, then we tell DOT this must stop. And if they get sued, they get sued. Hopefully they've got a good case. Hopefully whatever stipulation or whatever testimony, whatever documentation we can provide will help them defend that.
Yeah.
Okay, I just, in fairness, want to add something, this is not my view, but I just want to make people aware that there are many in the community that do support these buses, a lot of businesses do, and a lot of people they serve do, so, the community speaks sides.
Is there anybody here tonight?
Well, I'm not, that's entirely, not, it is important business. It's a form of business, it's concentrated.
Correct.
But,
Yeah.
If they had done, which I had envisioned when we were pushing for this legislation. If they had spread them out like they did in Washington, DC, you don't have more than one stop every 5 blocks, you really don't. And that is what I thought we were gonna do. Also, they charge you something like $5,000-$10,000 for your permit per year. It's like $300. So the permit process is, it's just like a weak tea. It's a very weak tea in this.
So question, so select when they don't have, when they have no show. Don't even vote on, is that true?
We always never,
Never do that.
and it's almost never. It's once every several years. But we would absolutely say.
Yeah, and that's the in the states are quite high. So we could do that narrow here, and then we'll do this again. So,
So your point would be good if we can include something in show.
Well, because
Part of our not, why we're denying it.
right, so let's make a decision right now, because we should get out of here. Do we want to pass a resolution tonight, which is denying it, saying it in show and the other things? Or do we want to do, just a flat denial, and then they'll come back at some point if they don't want this? First one, we'll have to bring it up, we can cobble it together, together with the old resolutions. How much you got?
I'd rather do,
Well, how much time do you have? Well, okay, I didn't stay, so,
So we should put that out.
we should put that in, okay, so that's. what-
yes.
That doesn't.
Okay,
And DRT was also.
yeah, we want to do this.
No, it's.
Okay, so can you screen share it in, and let's just put this together. I got the. Alright, years, and then I looked at the grass clauses. Nancy got here. Well, we'd have to make her a house. This is gonna be roast.
Yeah.
You're not on the Zoom, right?
Nancy, you're going to, are you on the Zoom?
Where's the?
I don't have work on my computer.
I have.
You join us?
Yeah. So that she shares.
Is anyone in the public wanting to speak on this item? While we're trying to get the screen up.
Okay, my seats. That's it. That's it.
So you should.
Yeah.
Oh.
She used to click on a link in the television. And we do this for 2 days, it's already 8:30. You can use the same graph or it would be, feel similar. So to each will might be different because we've got a couple of whereas paragraphs to promote, resolutions for this exact location. We're gonna have to decide what to do about the one of the whereas says they agreed to the steps, so he did. He did agree to the steps actually. This is in our application.
So
So you could say that he wasn't here, was here but left before we got to his item. So that's where he wasn't here. And then we had agreed with the.
Sorry, thanks, Nancy.
So Nancy, can make her co-host or whatever it is.
Yeah, make her, just don't make her.
One of our challenges is that we literally can never figure out what buses are currently being operating there because. I'm gonna go.
You see.
I can see it. We'll be able to expand it for everybody else. Where they apply, we don't know what the brand name will be. So you can cut will operate through the comma. At the end of that line. So the buses will. I guess will provide. In the second line.
Okay.
Yeah, buses will operate service. You could say that will operate service between. So, okay, you can delete. Okay. New York and North Carolina and, I gave you the language for that in the email. For that entire width to the end of the line. Is that in? It's in your email. Like I had sent you an email, it was later than the one that you replied to. Hey, I don't think it was in this one, in the very email where you got this,
I copied everything.
okay, we copied it on the Word document. Oh, follow even. There was a bunch of, okay, well, I'll just read it then.
Yeah.
It's in an email to you. It was actually the first one, I'll send you the template. So I could have messed up. So, yeah, at the very top of the email. Bus company, you got it, Ace Traveling, curbside location 59 Canal. Destination city, yep, with up to replace that tarp bus with two drop offs daily between 8 AM and 10 AM. With 2 drop offs.
Oh, yeah, I have it.
Okay,
I wrote- I-
you did, okay. Okay, there was. Thanks.
Between 8
Yep.
and 10 PM and 2 pickups daily between 4:45.
Next, whereas, that's about the saturation point, and that's lifted from an old resolution from many years ago, but it's still true. Susan, the community order office, we used to receive these complaints, and these were 4 things that you had in the past. Would you say we still get these complaints about?
I haven't had a complaint.
Okay. Yeah, well, this is a problem.
They're still operating to be honest.
They are. Yeah, we know that. I know they are. They live down there too.
Used to.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So now Orbis, they have been discussed, so. couple inches, there you go, have been discussed in board meetings. Um, in the past for this location. People are so worn down, people aren't even participating anymore, you know.
Yes.
Two people that I swore would be here tonight, they're not, because there's no point.
Yes.
Okay, for this location, got it. Next whereas. Okay. We're gonna have to cut out most of the first 2 or 3 lines. Okay, find the word since. Oh, it says fifth line down, since, so delete backward from that word since up to location. Yeah, all that. There, back up to the word location in the first line, and then we'll touch up the grammar. Delete, and then what do we got? About the streets surrounding this location, about the streets surrounding this location, comma. About the streets surrounding this location. Yeah, comma, since there's a traffic pattern caused by other bus operators whose designated stops at those addresses. There's a total of, we don't know the total anymore because they don't publish it. So, okay, get rid of there and then capitalize all at the end of the line. So that introductory clause, yeah, we can say all those buses. Making the tight left turns onto Essex and right. Not one additional designated in this vicinity. So instead of at this corner, say in this vicinity. Right above your cursor, one line above. The word at this corner, say obviously in this vicinity. Yeah, in this vicinity. Okay, and then get rid of that this corner. And then the last sentence, the CB3 recommends, I would delete that sentence to the semicolon. Great. Now I'm not convinced that this fire hydrant is ever real. I recall the discussion. Nobody's here to talk about it, but for
Fire hydrant.
the fire hydrant 4 buildings away.
No, there's one right there.
Right there at 59, not at 55.
I mean, it's right next to it.
Maybe it was sorry. Yeah. Mhm. So there is a fire hydrant there. And it's at 59.
No, it's at 55, so it's like literally right next to it, you know, it's like on the most western side of.
Oh, is it a multi? It's so
That's 55, actually,
It's
it's
55.
59, but it's like right next to it.
it's adjacent. Okay, so it's very close. It is very close. Never mind. I mean, never mind that I was either at or too close to the proposed bus stop. The location is already dead. We don't know. We just don't know. At the time, we were tracking them very closely. This was from 2014. I would get rid of probably everything from the this to the end. This location is already just cut it all the way from there to the end. Okay. There you go. So. Objects to issue another permit. Okay, these are the clauses then. CB3 Manhattan objects to issuing another permit at the 59th Street location and recommends to teach a non-issue permit for use travel to operate the bus service. Further resolve. Okay, I think this is good, except we should add something about how the applicant did stay for until the agenda came out at the meeting. So we can put that probably earlier before, so we don't break it up. Whereas, yeah. Okay, second whereas. I would just, yeah, right there, I would we'll put one that says, whereas the applicant did not stay at the meeting until the agenda came up, so CB3 did not have an opportunity to discuss. To say what? Okay, sure. We'll put the phrases in there, but we'll touch it up. And, so CB3 Transportation Committee did not have an opportunity to discuss the application in person. Gruesome part of writing things by committee. Okay, so the applicant, let's say, let's say that they left the meeting before instead of did not stay until. So left the meeting before. Okay, yeah, and then the meeting should say this CB3. We should write there CB3 Transportation Committee meeting. I don't know if you need to, the meeting, I guess it's clear if you read to the end that it was a CB3 Transportation Committee, or do you want to put CB3 Transportation Committee in front of the word meeting? I'm sorry, but yeah, I would go ahead and do that, type the whole thing right there. Okay, now where we need the clause about the stipulations. Because they did agree on the written application. So there we go. Lift that whole whereas that starts there. We'll adjust it a bit, but let's copy and paste it. And let's look fast toward the top, probably in what we third whereas, I think. What do you think? Second or third, above or below the one about them? Go ahead, put it below. Below, so where your is that my cursor? No, not this one. I think that the negative stuff will above the higher. Right there. Paste it. Great. Add. Let's say, so we have an application and they agreed on the application, they even filled it out completely there. So the applicant indicated on their application that they would agree to adhere. So indicated on the CB3 application that they would enter. Yeah, agreement to here. Okay. Do we have all the bases covered?
Should be on their CB3 application or?
Be on there, sure, there. So for overall understandability, have we hit it all? We want to skim it from the top. I'm not going to read it aloud. I'm just going to, you Nancy can scroll to the top. See, the nice thing is that they do have that storefront. I don't know if they are renting it or probably renting it or something, but they indicated that they have that storefront at 57. I think it is. Now it is oversaturated, and it says that very clearly. These are the problems that we see happening a lot right there because of the saturation. Then the traffic flow concern, too much traffic making those small corners when they approach, and the hydrant resolve, we object to issuing another permit, and but if you do, hey, read the grammar in that last row, be it further resolved. Does that grammar make sense to everybody? If DOT does issue a permit for East Traveling to operate their bus service at the city curbside bus stop, picking up Canal Street, CB3 Manhattan requests the preceding list of stipulations agreed between the applicant and CB3 will be attached to the DOT permit. Well, they're not here. It's not like they indicated they would agree by filling out the application and checking off all of it. Mhm. That previously agreed previously, we could just leave it as agreed. I'm wondering if the agreed is, do they really agree? That's true. Okay, so
Yeah.
we heard previously because that's confusing. No more discussion? Vote? All in, well, yeah, we can just do it all in favor. All in favor? And anybody opposed, here present not voting or abstaining? Let's do the roll call. Let's see that so you can stick the count. Yeah.
Question. So. We have sent to community ward 6. Proposal to narrow the second out of the bus lane. And I'd like to know why that was not presented. Because the other part of that with the next 3 houses. So I'd like to know why CD6 got the it's sent to word that we did.
Someone want to step on a roach? You got, we need to roll call.
Here.
Sal Fletcher.
Here.
Sister Ito.
Here.
Sean Garcia.
Here.
Nancy Tom. Here.
Here, yes.
Jamie Rizar.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Vincent and Nancy, we need to keep this resolution in because we're at the economic census. Every 3 years.
Thank you.
One thing really
So, what happens, like recently, we found that the.
Chocolate? You may need chocolate. There you go.
Yeah. We found out.
Help yourself. Look.
So
It's yours. It's mine.
So we actually.
Giving it, there's a lot of things. Wow.
This one was good.
Oh.
More than I thought.
This one is Keith Hannon.
I said it. Good job.
Thank you. See y'all later.
Good. It's all good, but all this stuff, it's.
So I think it's, you know, you could think whatever you think, but it's unfair to not recognize.
It's unfair. And as we solve. It's gonna be a very interesting few months. Passionate people on all sides of Park Road.
Few months, 12 to 18.
Decades.
Yeah, this is why my hair is gray because it came through 15 years ago.
So I wasn't gonna say exactly when I said I sold my Park Row, I still have my open park. T-shirt. But in 2002, everybody wanted it.
Yeah, but now we have a little.
No, I understand that, but that's why I didn't say my open park. No, I didn't want to get.
Yeah, it's like one city, it's a different city.
Yeah, and we were angry because they would talk to us, you know, it was Homeland Security, Federal Homeland Security, it was the police. It was this, well, no, it's not this. I know, but it's so different now. No, I totally agree, I'm just, no, I know, remembering what it. Oh, this belongs to,
It belongs to, Nick.